to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have an opportunity for mayor and council member reports on current events. Does anybody have a report on a current event? We'll start with Councilman Clare.
Nothing really to report, Tom.
All right. Councilman Romack.
Nothing from me, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Donahue.
I guess the only thing I'd say is I listened to the cross-dock meeting, which ended up getting delayed because people had to leave. I'm not quite sure why people didn't clear their calendars from 9:30 to 2:30, but that was quite interesting. So I look forward to May 28th for the next option. Anyway, that's all.
Councilman Rostosi.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Brainerd Watson.
I likewise have nothing to report.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay, I just have one thing that I need to bring up to the council as part of the and do it as a report. There is a group of restaurateurs who are trying to convince the governor to extend part of the governor's emergency order after the emergency ends. And the part that they're trying to get extended is the ability for a restaurant using a Class 12 liquor license to sell alcoholic beverages for consumption off premises. That was a concession or a change that the governor made to help support restaurants through the pandemic times and through the time when they couldn't be open, because alcohol is a very large part of the profit margin of a lot of restaurants. But now that now that it actually ends, but when the emergency ends, some restaurants are trying to convince the governor to leave that exception in place going forward. There are a variety of individuals who have liquor licenses, obviously, that are the type or series of liquor licenses that allow for the sale of off-premise alcohol, who are opposed to that, and the issue is coming to the cities and towns for comment through the Arizona League of Cities and Towns. So as a member of the executive committee, I'm going to be called upon to take a position on that at our executive committee meeting, which is coming up in the next several weeks. So I'm letting everyone here know that my position is that that this exception should not be continued, because it's not in the public health of our communities, and it allows for potentially the sale of alcoholic beverages outside consumption in areas that would violate things like setback rules for schools, and that it's not fair to the people who own licenses that provide for that now. It would do great economic damage to them in the form of the value of those licenses. So I'm opposed to it, and I'm going to be opposed. But I'm willing to hold a special meeting if there's at least 2 council members who would like to bring it up and discuss it and have a council vote. So I'm just letting you know that you can't do anything about it tonight. But if you want a special meeting so we talk about this before I have to do something at the league, then if you contact the city manager, then we will try to schedule a meeting to discuss it in more detail. So that's my report. That takes us to the report of the city manager, who's not on here. What's that?
Tom, if I may.
Councilor Romack.
Thank you. You are clicking your pen in front of your microphone, and it's very.
Really? Is it? Can you hear it?
Oh boy, yeah.
All right, I'll stop that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
I just hate it when people have annoying habits. Yes, Councilor Brainerd Watson.
Can we be our opinion to the manager and let him communicate our thoughts to you?
Yes, you can within, within reason. I'm going to say that because Susan's not here and can't throw anything at me, but I believe that, yes, you can communicate your thoughts to the city manager.
She's here.
Shoot here.
Well, I know she's here.
Tonight. You can,
Not here, but
you can
would be-
contact the city manager and express your opinion. I mean, the mayor, and express your opinion.
It's always feels reassuring to know that she can't possibly have a good enough arm to throw something from where she's at and hit me tonight.
I've never done that.
You didn't make faces at me though. That's scary. All right, going to go on to the consent agenda, which is consent agenda item A. Does anyone want to take consent agenda item A off of the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
So it's been moved by the vice mayor, seconded by Councilman Donahue. All those in favor, please say aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
Mayor.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor, I apologize for the time delay in this. I'm talking to a satellite link. I had gotten to you and Terry, I think Bill, about changing, and I'd like this in the new minutes also, the top of page 25, the April 29th minutes, where it says I stated that MCSO gives us a great value and I'd be willing to give him more money. That was not correct. My comment
It doesn't sound like you.
Posse. No, my comment was directed at the posse.
In the minutes,
the posse gives us a phenomenal bang for the buck, and I strongly support the posse.
okay, in the minutes that are in front of the council, that has been corrected.
Okay, thank you.
Was there anything else?
That's it.
Okay, so everyone here, other than the vice mayor, is permitted. What happened to our Zoom here?
I don't know.
They all went over on the side.
I think John Romack is sharing a screen.
Oh, am I screwing it up?
Yeah, apparently. There we go. All right, so now that I can see all the council members who desire to vote aye on the motion to adopt the consent agenda, please raise your hand. Okay, so I can see everyone has raised their hand. Mr. Vice Mayor, I need an oral vote from you. So are you in favor or against the consent agenda?
Aye.
All right, your satellite feed is not working at the moment. It's breaking up, but I think you said aye. We're going to record it as an aye, and if it's wrong, you can correct it.
No, that's correct.
I'm sorry?
That's correct. I'm in favor.
Okay, something's going on with your phone where we can't really can't hear you each time you speak. Okay, this brings us to the appropriations distribution. You have a worksheet in your packet that has the various inputs from the council put into a spreadsheet and then a mathematical computation made to come up with what was the judgment of staff as being the consensus of the group, with following. I think the only rule that he really followed was that if there's not at least 4 votes providing funding, then there won't be anything given. So there were 2 groups in which there was no votes for any funding. So those 2 groups end up with 0. That's the Southwest Valley Family YMCA and a New Leaf. I also understand that there's an error in John Romack's column. Is that correct, Mr. Romack?
Yes, it is. I had suggested $1,000 donation to the Blue Star Moms, and they recorded it as 4,000. Now, if you add my column, it's 20,500, not 17,500.
All right, so we have an error in that vote, which would, you're out of seven, so that's 3,000 out of 7, so it's about $400 difference. So instead of having a recommendation of 1,785, the recommendation would have been 1,385, and that $400 would have been spread through the other recipients. It's not a big change in what is here, so I'll listen to council if you want to make adjustments to decrease the Blue Star Moms by $400, and then take that 400 and spread it through the rest of these 12 others or 11 others. It'd be about $40 a piece. My own feeling is that we would just stay with what we've got, but I'll listen to hear suggestions or hear a motion.
Mr. Mayor, John here.
Yes, Councilman Romack.
Yeah, I don't, personally, I have nothing against Blue Star Moms. I just want to get the numbers correct. But I don't think it's such a minor in the totality of the whole thing that to me, it just go ahead and do whatever is here in the packet.
So would you make a motion to adopt the recommendations that are shown in green on our spreadsheet?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Okay, any further discussion? It's seconded by Councilman Watson. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in the council who are in favor, please show your hands. Aye. Okay, it looks like we've got all ayes. Mr. Vice Mayor, what's your vote, aye or nay?
Aye.
Huh?
I heard aye.
Okay, we heard aye. We don't have a chat feature in this, do we?
Yes.
Yeah, at the bottom, he could chat.
Yeah, it may be that when
He's
we...
calling in.
Hmm?
He's calling in on his phone, so he can't chat.
Oh, he can't chat, okay. All right, never mind. Okay, so we're going to record Mr. Vice Mayor as aye, so the motion passes unanimously. Councilor Watson.
I just
There
spoke, there we go. I spoke to Vice Mayor just shortly before the meeting, up on the Mogollon Rim, so his connection is weak. So give him a little slack. We'll do the best.
He gave you a little what?
I said, give him a little bit of slack because he's up on the Mogollon Rim and his connection is weak.
You know, I'm all for slack, but that's, if you're up on the rim, that's he doesn't need slack if he's up there.
Well, we could have all been up, but
All right, that takes us to the tentative budget. Mr. Johnson. Yep, you're here. Do you have a presentation to give beyond what's in the packet?
I do have a few slides, if I may. Let me see if I can quickly.
Before you get into your slides, can you tell us, did you make the modifications that we discussed at our last work study on the budget?
I did.
In terms of moving things into contingency so that they would have to come back to council if we were going to spend that money?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Nice to see you all. This evening's action item on the budget is to adopt the budget on forms that's provided by the Auditor General's office that basically estimates what the city needs to meet the public expense for the next fiscal year. The tentative budget sets the maximum allowed for the next year. From there, the budget can be revised downward, just not upward. And then the second action item is to basically allow city staff to post the notice for the public hearing, which we plan to take place at the next regularly scheduled council meeting. Again, the next two steps after today is the public hearing and adoption of the budget. And then in July, we will adopt the tax levies for the special districts in the city. The Auditor General prescribes forms to prepare the budget. They're schedules A through G. Just wanted to point that out, that there's very detailed information. It's not just one lump sum. However, the maximum dollar amount is the total that we cannot revise upward from. This is Schedule A, which is the summary. I wanted to cover the far right column, but it looks like it's difficult to see with all the images of people. Let me see if I can get it moved. And I apologize for Vice Mayor who's called in. You won't be able to see this. I'll try to read it out. Basically, I just wanted to go through the summary of what is, this is going to be published in the newspaper for the public's viewing of the tentative budget. So I wanted to show this to council. It starts with the first row, which is the adopted budget from last year, which was $19,026,365. And then we also estimate what we plan to spend by the end of this fiscal year, and that's $8,765,758. We also estimate then what the total fund balance is citywide, and that is $13,015,595. Then we add in what we estimate for revenue for the next fiscal year. That's about 14 million. These all total to the bottom for total financial resources available, which is 22.9 million. This basically allows the public to see that this is a balanced budget that you propose to adopt. If you add the total basically savings the city has plus the revenue that's coming in next year, and then compare that to what the adopted budget is. And the adopted budget for next year is proposed at $19,743,700. Sorry, let me read that again. $19,743,726. That's compared to the state imposed expenditure limit of $19,755,604. From here, I'll just show one summary slide of what this looks like in various categories. So to answer your question, Mayor, yes, I did make the changes as we discussed in the two workshops. What that gives us is a 1% increase in our operating budget compared to last year. So that change is about 120,000. And overall, we're increasing by 4%. From here, Mayor and Council, I'm available for any questions.
Okay, questions from council? Don't see any hands. I can't see your hand, Mr. Vice Mayor. Did you have any questions?
No, I've got it in front of me here, though.
All right, if there are no questions or further discussion, is there a motion to adopt the tentative budget proposed for fiscal year 21 as it's been presented to us with a maximum expenditure of $19,743,726?
So moved.
Second.
So it's been moved by Councilman Donahue and seconded by Councilman Rostosi. If there is no further discussion, then all those in favor, please raise your hand. Looks like we have everyone's hand has been raised aye. Mr. Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
I believe that was an aye. Okay, so the tentative budget is adopted, and we'll go on through the steps to get it actually as our budget. Next item of business is to consider the tentative streetlight improvement district budgets for 2021. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have any slides to prepare, so I'm just going to refer to what was presented in the packet. Very quickly, though, the street light districts in the city, there's 3 of them that cover the area, and we assess tax based on the assessed value that the Maricopa County prepares to cover the electricity cost of running the lights in those districts. The biggest change you'll notice under the levy is on SLID district number 2. Last fiscal year, we had a budget or a levy of $68,123. This next year, it's going up to $155,949. The reason for that is, if you recall, last year I identified that district had a significant fund balance built up. So through the years, there's been over collection, I guess you could say. And last year, we intentionally set the levy lower so that we could use up that savings, being that these should really operate on a year-to-year basis. So that's why the levy is increasing to cover the full cost this year. With that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions from the council? Mr. Vice Mayor, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
All right, if there's no further questions or discussion, is there a motion to adopt the tentative budget as presented in the packet, along with the estimates of assessments for SLIDs 1, 2, and 3 for fiscal year 2021, and authorize staff to publish the notice of budget and tax levy for a public hearing on June 17th, 2020?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Watson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Donahue. All those in favor, please show your hands now as aye. And it looks like we have all ayes. Mr. Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
So the ayes have it. Going on now to adoption of ordinance 20-241 concerning mobile food vendors. Mr. Williams, you have a report for us?
One second.
Are you on the buggy on the rim, Mr. Williams?
Hear me okay, sir?
No. I thought maybe you were on the buggy on the rim. Try again.
Okay.
Still not good. No, it's not working.
Hold on. Is that better?
A little bit better.
Okay.
No, it's not better.
I can do this if you need it.
You want to have the city attorney take the presentation? Maybe easier.
That's fine. I'll call in on my phone and pick up where I can. That'll be fun, sir.
Actually, you're fine right now. All of a sudden, you start working.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So as you
You're not fine anymore. Let's go to Susan.
I'll be brief. This was introduced at the.
Okay.
This was introduced at the last meeting. There were some requests for changes, minor changes related to events at a particular location. The requests were to be sure that we allowed for planned events such as parties on a residential lot, that there would only be one food truck per event per property with one bill to the homeowner. In other words, the homeowner is responsible for all of the invoice, the cost, the bills that would be paid. The change is in section, was paragraph H, which I don't have. Under location, that's where all of the changes are. I think I captured everything the council wanted. It requires, again, there's no food trucks in residentially zoned properties except for these events. And so we permitted, we said a mobile food truck vendor may operate one mobile food unit on the lot if the mobile home vendor obtains a separate agreement with the property owner. It's not to be, the mobile food unit shall not be operated longer than the duration of the event and up to a maximum of 6 hours within a 24-hour period, which is what the council discussed. And that the owner of the lot and not the attendees of the event shall pay the mobile home vendor for the food and beverages sold from the mobile food unit. So I think that addresses all of the issues raised by the council, and that's the ordinance that's before you tonight for adoption.
Any questions or discussion from council? Mr. Vice Mayor, do you have anything?
No, she's addressed my concerns.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, then is there a motion to adopt ordinance number 20-241, amending our city code for mobile food vendors?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
So moved by Councilman Romack, seconded by Councilman Brainerd Watson. If there's no further discussion, then please indicate aye by raising your hand. Aye. It looks like they're all wrong. Councilman Clare, did you vote? I missed it. Okay. So we have 6 ayes, and now we go to the Vice Mayor. What's your vote, Mr. Vice Mayor?
Aye.
Okay, so the ayes have it. The ordinance is adopted as presented. Next item of business is a consideration of adoption of ordinance 20-242 concerning commercial truck restrictions. It says Mr. Williams, but I'm thinking that we're going to have to go. Susan, can you handle this one also or not?
Yes, I can. The request of the council at the last meeting was to be sure that is to understand the impact of the truck restrictions in the city center. This is what mostly relates to the city center. Does not, how it affects the wigwam. And so that wasn't exactly a legal question. So actually I turned that over to Matthew, and he was going to review that. But the ordinance in front of you does not have any changes from when you introduced it at the last meeting.
Okay, Mr. Stevens, maybe, do you know what Matthew Williams found out about downtown issues and whether this ordinance has any negative impact on the wigwam?
No, he didn't relay that to me, but I don't believe it has any negative impact.
Okay, we'll try sign language. How about we'll try sign language, Matthew. Let's see if we can get you enough to at least let us know what you found out.
Can you hear me now?
Better.
I'm attending via phone.
Okay.
Okay, you can hear me now. Okay, I'm sorry, Mayor and Council, for all the trouble. So as far as the actual hours for business restrictions, those hours are only in the city center area. They wouldn't apply for downtown or for the wigwam. There's several different parts of this ordinance. The main parts of this ordinance were to restrict through traffic. Ingress and egress can still come through. So there's that part, and there's the part that makes it from Litchfield Road, which is currently, to Dysart. But the hours only apply to the city center area. They actually would not apply to the wigwam or to our downtown businesses. Susan, would you agree with that interpretation?
Yes.
All right, so there's no impact on the wigwam.
That's correct, sir.
All right. Is there any other questions from the council concerning this ordinance on commercial truck restrictions? Councilman Donahue, do you have your hand up? No? Okay. Councilman Clare?
Unmute.
You have to unmute.
There, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is the beginning of our process of also addressing the cross-dock facility, changing the truck routes and limiting the truck access?
Yes, the next step within that process is to get our signs posted, and then we start notifying trucking companies and the sheriff and give everybody some sort of a date in the future when we're going to start enforcing this, and then we're going to start ticketing trucks.
Okay, I'll ask offline my next question. That's fine.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from council? If not, all those in favor of adopting ordinance 20-242 on commercial truck restrictions, please signify aye by raising your hand. It looks like all of the hands are raised. Councilman Mr. Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the ayes have it.
I don't have a motion or a second.
I thought we had a motion.
I didn't hear.
Okay, did I skip that? I thought we had a motion to that.
I move.
All right, well, yeah, that's what I thought.
Second.
Adopt the, what is this, a regulation or adopt the?
Ordinance 20-242.
There we go. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, now there's no further discussion. I thought we had it. We're really going to get through this meeting quickly. Okay, all the ayes, please raise your hand. I see all of the hands except Councilor Rostosi. Is your hand up or not? Not up. Okay. All of those who are not in favor, who are not in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Okay, still don't know what, Councilman Rostosi, did you vote one way or the other, Councilman?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, my hand was up. I voted aye.
Okay. I couldn't see it in your screen. All right, Mr. Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right, so the ayes have it. The ordinance is adopted. Now we'll go on to an ordinance concerning the floodplain regulation amendment, ordinance 20-243. This again is to consider adoption. We have a presentation from Woody Scouten.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Susan, you want to handle this one too?
Oh, I can, but I won't. You can do it.
All right, I'll do it. Yeah, Mayor, Mayor, members of the council, this is a little bit of housekeeping that we have to do in order to maintain our membership in the National Flood Insurance Program. There is a new flood insurance study that has been completed for our part of Maricopa County and some new floodplain maps that have been adopted. And because we are on one of those maps, we need to adopt those floodplain, that new floodplain study and those maps in order to enforce them within our community. And FEMA requires this adoption so that we can maintain our membership in the National Flood Insurance Program, which of course is important to our residents. And with that, it wasn't introduced at the last meeting, so this is for adoption. With that, I'll ask if there's any questions.
Any questions from the council? Don't see any. If there are not questions, is there a motion to adopt ordinance 20-243 on floodplain regulations?
So moved.
Councilman Romack moved. Is there a second?
Second.
I think it was Councilman Donahue who seconded. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, we got everybody is saying yes. Mr. Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
So the ayes have it. We have adopted ordinance 20-243, amending our floodplain regulations. Next item of business is to introduce ordinance 20-244, which is a model tax code amendment. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. We were contacted by Arizona Cities and Towns League staff a few months ago they're working on helping cities and towns update their local codes to match basically what the current model city tax code is. These code amendments, if you're not aware, council, is they're actually adopted by a separate commission, the Municipal Tax Code Commission. So the official record of the city's tax code is on a website, modelcitytaxcode.az.gov. However, the local version hasn't been kept up to speed, so they're working on helping cities and towns get those local records up to speed. They're going to do it in 2 phases. The first phase incorporates changes that have been done between the years 2012 to 2014. And then they're going to come back later this year with a second phase that will incorporate changes from 2018 to 2019. So this is also a housekeeping item, as was the previous one, in that council cannot change the language in the Model City Tax Code. However, council does have authority over the rates of tax in each classification. With that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Maybe a comment to the council. One of the largest battles that we had in the state in the last 2 years or so, maybe 3 years, is over the ability for cities and towns to make certain decisions about how they apply their sales tax or transaction privilege tax. There is I think you'll remember there's been a lot of different changes, such as now having all the auditing done by the state as opposed to having individual auditors. It's things like that. There's been a lot of work done on construction sales tax, which is part of this whole issue on who should control the decision on what will local cities and towns have in their sales tax base. And the local cities and towns are different than the state. We tax certain things differently than how the state taxes them. So the only way that can possibly work and have political support in the state is if we have a model that all of the cities and towns follows, because there are 91 municipal jurisdictions, and if we're all different, it would be impossible for a business person to do business if they were doing business in more than one jurisdiction. It would be overwhelmingly complicated. So there are certain limited exceptions in the model code that we can make decisions on. The easiest one to know about is food. We do not have to tax grocery store sales of food, but we are allowed to if we want to. That's one example of the things that the cities can make their own decision on. So it is actually very important statewide for all the cities to keep their codes up to date, so that we don't have to fight this battle every year in the legislature trying to take control of this model city code away from the League of Cities and Towns. So I would urge you to support this amendment, even though it limits our ability to tax nuclear fuel, which I personally am really concerned about. But other than that, these changes they're in line with what we're doing anyway. So if there's any further discussion, I'll recognize whoever would like to talk. Seeing none, Mr. Vice Mayor, do you have anything you'd like to say?
No, thank you.
Then is there a motion to introduce, I think it's introduce, yes. Motion to introduce ordinance 20-244 for the model tax code amendments to cover the period 2012 to 2014.
This is Tom, so moved.
Second.
Is there a second? Second by Councilman Clare. All right, if there's no further discussion, then all those in favor, would you please signify by raising your hand? Looks like we have everyone's hand up. Mr. Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Vice Mayor votes aye, so the ayes have it, and the ordinance is introduced. Next item is a resolution 20-463 concerning the license fee for mobile food vendors. Mr. Williams. Hmm?
He needs to unmute.
You have to unmute,
Okay.
Mr. Williams.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Mayor and council, this is the fees that are proposed for the mobile food trucks. As you know, anytime something new is put in place like this, you have to put a fee in place also. These were posted as 60 days as required. We are planning these to go in place from the first of the year, of course, with the new budget year. So you see, of course, that for a new food truck, it would be $200. That includes the food truck license and the business license. After that, a renewal would be $150. And again, that would be two licenses. That would be the business license and the food truck license. And of course, there's a process they would go through that in the clerk's office. Any questions on these fees as proposed?
Questions from the council?
I just have one quick
Mr.
question.
Donahue. Yes.
Matthew, these are food vendors that mainly we utilize for our festivals. Is that, or this has to do with the other one that we just passed that said they can park anywhere?
This has to do with the ordinance we just passed.
Food trucks.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the food trucks we use for festivals, they're charged by the festival group to be there that day.
Yes,
right?
ma'am, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. They pay a fee to be part of the event. This would be for any food truck that want to come set up in town and do business at basically at any time, obviously within certain hours.
Gotcha.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 20-463 on mobile food vendor license fees?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Donahue. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Romack. All those in favor, please signify by showing raising your hand. So we have hands up from everyone. Councilman, Mr. Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
So the ayes have it. Resolution 2463 is adopted. Now we're going to look at Resolution 20-467, which is Community Development Block Grant Program. Presenter is Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir, Mayor, Council.
I'll help you out here. Mr. Williams. The city does not qualify for a community action development or community development block grants. For various financial reasons, we can't qualify to get one of these grants. So what we do every year to help those in Maricopa County is we join with Maricopa County and basically give them our population count so that they can qualify for slightly more money in terms of the grants that they can qualify for. So it's a cooperative element that we do between the governments to help the other governments around Maricopa County who can qualify for these block grants. Are there any questions about this program? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to adopt Resolution 20-467 on the Community Development Block Grant Program?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Brenner Watson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Clare. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Looks like we have all of the hands up. Mr. Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
I think that was an aye, so the ayes have it. Resolution is adopted. Next item is the Vista Verde Drainage Improvement Project. Mr. Scouten.
He needs to unmute.
You have to unmute. There you go.
Yep. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a consideration of an IGA with the Flood Control District to consider improving the drainage conditions in the Vista Verde area. And just for everybody's, hope you can see this on your screen, just give you an idea of where this is located. So we're talking about this center cul-de-sac of condominiums here next to the golf course. And just to zero in a little bit more, this area drains, the streets in this area drain to a underground catch basin and storm drain system in this area that takes it out to the golf course. And there's an underground pipe that takes it out to this lake down here on one of the holes in the golf course. It's been there since the condominiums were built. In July of 2017, there was a big storm, dumped something like 4 inches of rain on this area. The condominium storm drain system was overwhelmed. Water collected in this cul-de-sac because it's actually built a little bit like a shallow bathtub. There is no emergency outlet for the water to get around either side of the condominiums and get into the golf course. So the water ponded, ended up going into almost all of these condominiums, perhaps all of them, and causing quite a bit of damage. So we came up with some ideas on how to fix it. We applied to the Flood Control District for some funding of up to $250,000 through their Small Projects Assistance Fund. They approved our application and are offering an IGA to fund up to 75% of the project. So the cost split, if the project ends up costing $250,000, would be the Flood Control District would be responsible for $187,500 of that, and the city would be responsible for $62,500, the other 25%. So we have, as I mentioned, we came up with a concept that will, let me orient you here. So this is the northern part of the condominium area. So this is Vista Verde Drive that comes down into the cul-de-sac. And then the next sheet, these are the condominiums here in the cul-de-sac that goes around. So the concept is to reconstruct a portion of Vista Verde Drive in this area to make it more of a dip section, to pull the water off into a channel, and to also build an emergency overflow channel. So what we're doing is intercepting as much flow as we can here and getting it out of the area, and then whatever flow accumulates within the cul-de-sac itself, if the storm drain system is overwhelmed or if it's clogged, this will serve as an emergency overflow to get the water out in this direction. It would flow around the west side of the condominiums and then discharge onto the golf course at the property line right here. Most of the time, this system will not be used because the upstream catch basins and the streets and the pipe will function as they're designed. But occasionally there's that big storm, or there might be clogged inlets or clogged pipes that would allow for this emergency system to operate. The city has already implemented a part of this project, which was to improve the size or make a couple of these catch basins up here in Vista Verde Drive, make them much larger. So we have already done that. We did that last year. So now this IGA will allow us to finish this project in conjunction with the Flood Control District. So if the IGA is approved, the funds would become available on July 1st of 2020. We would work with the Flood Control District to finalize this design and get them to agree to it. We would be responsible for managing the project, and at the time that we award a construction contract, the Flood Control District will pay us half of the costs at that point. And then we manage the project, go ahead and complete it, and then at the end of construction, the Flood Control District will pay their other 50%. So if this is approved, the next steps would be to finish the design, as I mentioned. We will work with the condominium HOA to obtain an easement. We'll need to have a drainage easement for these two channels. We'll select a contractor. We will bring that construction contract to the council for approval, and then we'll start construction. we obviously, the staff recommends approval on this because it is a very important drainage project. And I think there's one or two representatives of the condos on the line if you have any questions for them. I think Mr. Icorn is on the line. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, are there any questions from the council? This is something that's been before us several times. It is a very important project, and I want to thank Mr. Scouten for the work that he's done on this. We were very fortunate to be able to get a grant through the flood control district to pay for 75%, so that the project becomes realistic. Councilman Romack.
Hey, Mr. Mayor. Good job, Woody. Thank you for your presentation. I have a couple of questions, or one for sure. I know that surface runoff in today's world, you have to deal with your own runoff. You had mentioned that the runoff will go onto the golf course. Is there any pushback from Leo Simonetta or from the owners of the golf course regarding them accepting our runoff?
We originally had a concept that included some construction on the golf course. They were not in favor of that. So we revised our concept to keep all of the construction on the HOA property. And I meant to mention that the general design of this whole area, the whole residential area around the golf course is for, especially up in here and these two peninsula types of projects, is for the drainage to go into the golf course. So the golf course acts as the drainage retention system for this whole area.
We have spent, just so you'll know, Councilman Romack, we've spent a couple of years really working with the golf course and JDM to work through the various questions related to this. But at the end of the day, this water is all going onto the golf course. It's just a question of whether the water is going to go through the condos to get to the golf course or go around the condos to get to the golf course. But it's going to the golf course because that's the way all the drainage is designed, and it's how it's worked since the peninsula was originally built.
Right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Romack?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? I just have one question, and maybe, I don't know if Lars is still here. Maybe the city manager can answer this. This 67,000 or 25%, did we finally decide that this can come from our HERF funds?
Some of it can, some of it can't, so it's a split. But yeah, we determined that some of it could come from the HERF funds.
Okay. How about the other, if we look at this as one project, how about the other work that we've already done? Was it funded by HERF or was it funded out of our general revenues?
I believe it was funded under a CIP out of our general revenue.
Is that something that we can reclassify yet before the end of this fiscal year, or is it we lost the ability to do that?
I'll look into that. I don't know the answer to that, but I can have a discussion with Lars and see if that's a possible route we can take financially.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the council? If not, is there a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the Flood Control District of Maricopa County for the Vista Verde Drainage Improvement Project?
So move.
John, was it Councilman Romack that moved?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Huh?
Woody.
Okay. Woody, do not share your screen, please.
All right, there you go.
Thank you. Who was the second? I missed it because of Woody. Ron Clare. Okay, Councilman Clare seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Aye. Looks like all the hands are up. Mr. Vice Mayor, how do you vote? Aye. Okay, Mr. Vice Mayor is aye. So the IGA is approved, and we'll get it executed and get started on the project. Final item of business is a consideration of approving the second amendment to the Maricopa County Animal Care and Control Intergovernmental Agreement. Mr. Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council. So this is, we entered into an agreement with Maricopa County for animal care back in 2018. And it's been a one-year event where we've amended to extend, and that's what this is. It's an amendment to extend one more year. There is a slight increase, a $240 increase in the fees that were charged. We budgeted for that, and so we're good there. There's a few minor changes, and it's been processed through staff, and those changes are not anything that is problematic. We can handle that, and it makes it a good our IGA, and we also had our attorney Susan Goodwin look it over. So I think generally speaking, this is just nothing more than extending what we've already had in place with a few minor changes and a $240 increase. I'll take questions if you have any.
Any questions from the council? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the second amendment to the Maricopa County Animal Care and Control Intergovernmental Agreement?
Yeah, help yourself. It's all just.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Councilman Donahue, seconded by Councilman Romack. Was there a comment from the Vice Mayor?
No.
Was that a yes or a no?
No.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. We have, all of the hands are up. Mr. Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right, ayes have it. The intergovernmental agreement with the animal control group is approved. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
So moved by Councilman Romack, seconded by Councilman Brainerd Watson. All those in favor, please say aye. Put your hand up. Mr. Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Good vote. Otherwise, you'd have been overruled anyway, and we're adjourned. Thank you guys for thank you for a speedy meeting.
Good job.
Oh, but now we have to go do the CFD. I was ready to go home. Okay, let me see the CFD. Did you give me the paperwork on the CFD or not?
No,
No?
I'm sorry.
Because I didn't download it. Okay, we're going to get started on the CFD in just a second, because as soon as I get an agenda, because I didn't download it. Maybe I can download it faster than she can get it. You're quicker than the computer. Thank you. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order for the Village at Litchfield Park Community Facilities District. Susan, do we need another Pledge of Allegiance?
That's up to you. You don't have to.
Okay,
Oh,
then
it's
we're
on the
gonna-
agenda. It's on the agenda. Yes.
Okay, please join us in the pledge. Susan, you get to lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, I'll do that. I never get to do that.
I know, now you do.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
Indivisible.
and justice for all.
Oh. Okay, good job, Susan. All right, we're going to go to the minutes. Are there any comments on the minutes as presented by District Clerk Roth? If not, is there a motion to adopt the minutes? Someone?
So moved.
Councilman Donahue moves and Councilman Brainerd Watson seconds.
There we go.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please show your hands. Aye. Looks like we've got all hands. Mr. Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right, minutes are adopted. Now we go on to a discussion and possible adoption of a tentative budget for the Village at Litchfield Park Community Facilities District. Mr. Lars. Mr. Johnson, I should say. Mr. Lars Johnson. Finish it properly.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Or Chairman, I guess it is for the CFD board.
Chairman.
The CFD budget basically is set at what the next year's debt service payment is, and that's $363,650. $363,650. I can't seem to get the thousand in there. Then you can see that the rates per $100 have been going down over the years. That's basically a result of assessed value of property in that district going up. The debt service payment stays pretty stable throughout the years. The last payment for the debt at the CFD is due on July 15th, 2026. So there's 6 years left. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the council? Seeing none, is any question from the Vice Mayor?
None, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt the tentative budget and estimate of assessments for fiscal year 2021 for the Village at Litchfield Park Community Facilities District and authorize staff to publish the notice of budget and tax levy for a public hearing on June 17th, 2020?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Brainerd Watson. Second by Councilman Romack. If there is no further discussion, please signify if you vote aye by raising your hand. Okay, we have a show of hands. Mr. Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, so the tentative budget is adopted and staff's authorized to publish the notice. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Donahue, second by Councilman Brainerd Watson. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All right, Mr. Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. We are adjourned. Now we can all go back and enjoy the rest of the evening. Mr. Vice Mayor, enjoy the Muggy on Rim. Good night.
Take care.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Good job, Lars.
Thank you. Good to see you.